Good morning. I'm Kate Caston, and I am here at the Senior Center, the Iowa City Senior Center, on the mezzanine level, where there is a delightful and very well organized library. And with me is the librarian, Kathy Mitchell.
Good morning.
Good morning. Kathy worked for how many years at the Iowa City Public Library?
32.
32 years.
32 years.
So you bring a lot of experience and knowledge into organizing a library and bringing in materials that would appeal to a wide range of interests and
one would hope.
Tastes.
One would hope, yes.
Well, we'd like to just show people the library today, so I wonder if we could start with a kind of a tour.
That's fine.
And
Okay.
then after that we can talk about how people could get materials and bring them back and the role of volunteers.
Okay, very good. So let's.
Where shall we start?
That's right. Why don't we start right in this area?
Okay.
I should explain that this library is divided into two rooms. We right now are on the main part of the mezzanine, and this is all fiction in this area.
Okay.
So we will start over here. And what we have done is, because, Kate, mysteries are so popular here at the center, we actually have separated mysteries from the general fiction. And these are what's called pure mysteries. As you can see from this little sign, not horror, not gothic, not FBI or trial lawyers or beltway dramas. These are just your general mysteries. We have all from the most traditional, from the more gentle ones like Agatha Christie to the very dark ones, and Annette Walters and Denise Mina and Ian Rankin. It's a wonderful collection. It is heavily used, and very, very pleased that we are able to bring in the amount that we are able to bring in. And I want to show you right now so people understand why this collection is as good as it is. I don't want to forget this. This collection is created by both membership and the Iowa City Public Library. This is still considered an outreach facility for the public library, so they provide hundreds of books to us. They work directly with me, and the outreach librarian, Lynn Menenga, brings them in on an ongoing basis. So this is why we have such a spectacular collection and why it keeps changing, over the month.
You know, when you were working at the public library,
Mm-hmm.
I always sought you out because you had good advice about things. And I wonder if you have, could say maybe 2 or 3 mystery authors that you think are just top-notch.
I love. There are some really top-notch new mystery writers here, covering all kinds of subject matter. I think 2 of the best of the new ones, I would say, is Louise Penny. Louise Penny is a Canadian writer. She deals with the Quebecois, and wonderful books. She has a very gentle detective by the name, but Margot Stanfield or Gaman. I blanked, of course, naturally I blanked on his name, but wonderful detectives, sort of in the category of sort of Inspector Poirot, but they're much darker, much more complex than the Agatha Christie. And they do deal with a small town, so you also deal with this continuity with the residents of the small town, as well as the mysteries themselves. Another tremendous new mystery writer is the C.J. Box. He is this, especially his Joe Pickett novels. They take place in Wyoming, generally in the Yellowstone area, and it is not only does deal with these mysteries, and these can be these rather gruesome murders, but it also is a history of a family. You see over the years his family grow up and his relationships to the family members, as well as this one outsider by the name of Renee Romanowski, who is sort of on the lam. It's a very, very, very common. Let's move now to what's called the more general fiction. General fiction starts over here. And what we have done is we have separated the large print materials from the general print materials. This is going to be one of the few collections, and this is true in the public library, by the way, where we are going to mix nonfiction with general fiction because the collection itself is so small. And at this point, I'd like to point out that I do try to, if I can, try to keep up ADA standards, the American with Disabilities Act, especially with large fiction, large print fiction, nonfiction, by not using top shelves. You'll notice I never use the bottom shelves, but in this one especially because of the size and the weight of the books, I also try not to use the top shelves.
You know, that's very important to me. Whenever I'm at a library and I'm browsing,
Yes.
I don't even look at the lower shelves
It's
because it
hard.
hurts
It hurts the back. It hurts the back and the knees.
Yeah.
So when we were redoing this library in January of 2012 is when we started it. Not only did I get rid of all the bottom shelves, but then this wonderful volunteer with whom I was working at the time, Doug Gudenauer, right? spent about 14 hours lowering these top shelves for us. So anybody, even I can reach the top shelves now. So we really worked hard in order to make these ADA compliant. Now this is the general collection of fiction. It goes A through Z over here. And now I wish to point out how easily you can find an author. Everything here is shelved by the author's last name. That is general fiction and the mysteries and the large print. So when you are looking for a particular title, just go to the author. And then they should be always within title form after the author. So very, very easy to find.
And I see that the signs that show the letter of the alphabet are really big and conspicuous.
Yeah, beautiful,
very nice.
signage. I really want to thank the interns and the work study students, because they, over the last year and a half, have been doing the signage for me, as well as the labels that you see on these books, and they do a beautiful job. You know, they're very fast, very efficient.
Very easy to read.
Yes, really want to thank them for this. You know, we have this very simple labeling here, Kate. As you can see, just these plain white labels, and then in large letters we put the name of the author. So, you know, anybody can just come up here and just at a glance see what's on the shelf. It also makes it very easy for all volunteers to shelf the books, right? Because they can see immediately that these are fiction, Fs, and then they're in order. So it's a very simple, very straightforward system that works both for the membership and for the volunteers who work at the library. Now I want to show you over here, we have these wire racks that looks like there's not much on them now. That's because a lot of it is checked out. But when we first started here, these two shelves were packed from top to bottom with Harlequin romances. They simply were not being used. So what we did over the last year or so is we pretty much tossed almost all of them out and created sort of this very simple Harlequin rack. These are the larger print books. These are extremely popular. So we've kept all of them, and we've actually expanded this. We do get a lot of gifts, and so we try to keep as many of these as we can, because people just check these out in large numbers. Over here, these are the more traditional ones. Don't keep a lot of these. They simply don't get checked out very much, but we still, for the die-hard Harlequin fans who don't need the large print, we do try to keep a few of these. Then we have what we call just the general romance novels. These are not Harlequins, but these are some of the more popular romance writers, and we have some of those here. And at this time, you'll notice that we have a special label for these. It just says rack. And so it tells you that these don't go on the shelf. This is simply what's called a real browsing collection. The way this came about is we were getting a lot of second copies of books, or we were getting a hard copy of something and then a paperback of something, and rather than giving them back to the library or giving them to the crowded closet, we thought, why don't we just make a browsing collection with second copies? And, you know, so that's why people who don't really have time or really don't want to look on the shelves, they can just come here and they can grab a lot of these, and I can see they have grabbed a lot of these. Shelves are really emptying out. It's a very nice way to introduce people to certain authors as well. And what happens is they come back, they go, I just grabbed this author off the rack. What do you have on the shelves? So this has been a very, very popular, let's call it just this general rack copy. The rack copy. Yeah, we love these. Now, when I first came here, the puzzles were everywhere. They were on every shelf, every room. They were completely out of control. They were on the floor. And these shelves were just filled with things that nobody was using. Formats that people weren't using anymore, like books on tape and books on cassette, audio cassettes, all sorts of pamphlets and stuff. So what I did was completely clean this out. And what we did was we created a games and cards and puzzle section.
Oh, I see. So
yes,
jigsaw puzzles
so jigsaw
here.
puzzles here and cards and games here. This mezzanine is just a whirlwind of activity. This is just a marvelous place. It isn't just the library, but you have the puzzle players who come every single day to work on these puzzles. The more complex, the better. On Wednesdays, you have euchre at noon. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you have Mahjong. The Mahjong players, in fact, are here right now.
See them play.
On Thursday, you have the drop-in bridge. So this is just a wonderful, wonderful place of activity. And this is where we keep a lot of their materials. You know, so it's amazing. I have seen some puzzles be worked on for 9 weeks.
Oh,
Seen
wow.
some be worked on for 6, 7 weeks, and then sometimes they do one like every 2 days.
Mhm.
The more complex, the better. They love these puzzles. When they are done with these puzzles, some of them, the more complex ones, we will save and we will put back on the shelves. There's this one member who can just eyeball it and immediately do count. She can figure out immediately how to do the outside of the puzzle. The outside, mathematically, she's just amazing. So that is the games and puzzles, and as I say, euchre, bridge, mahjong, you know, so it just heavily used. So we're seeing the change, we're going to see the change of guard here, that the mahjong people are leaving and the euchre people are coming in.
Oh,
So
I see.
this room, M02, is the conference room, but it also holds the nonfiction collection of our library. And this was one that we really worked on to get, we completely did this. One of the big things we did was we drew out the biography collection and we put it first because biographies are an extremely popular genre with the Senior Center, as it is in general libraries. As you can see, we've divided biographies from A to M and N to Z. Now, this particular collection is cataloged by the subject's last name.
The subject's
last name. We have a nice collection here. It's just been thoroughly weeded out. It is heavily used, and we have been receiving a lot of gifts in this collection. We're very pleased with the amount of gifts that we have. And we always try, as we get new ones, we try to showcase them on the top. So these are all brand new to our collection.
Can I ask you a question? I was thinking about this yesterday. When I was in both these library rooms, I felt that the air was nice and fresh. I didn't smell that kind of slightly mildewy smell like in a used bookstore.
Yes.
So how do you keep this? Do you have some rules about
Some
this?
rules, yes, I do have some rules about this. I really pay attention to the condition of the book.
Give it a smell test.
Yeah, give it a smell test. If they really are overly brown, if they're very brittle, the covers are torn, they really do smell musty.
Yeah.
You really don't want to do this. You really want to make sure that you have a healthy collection.
Right.
This is a senior library. You really don't want to do anything that could trigger an asthma attack or some sort discomfort. So really do keep that in mind. And and you want the collection to look nice too. You want the collection to look as nice here as it would in a public library or in a bookstore. You want to make sure that it's a very attractive collection, so people want to check these books out. So yeah, so that's why generally yes, they do pass the smell test.
They pass the smell.
Okay, so let's move over here, and what we've done over here is we've lowered the shelves. Originally, a lot of these books were very high, and again, they could not be reached by me or anyone else, unless you were on a stool. So we did make a lot of effort to get these collections lowered. And we have created some new collections over the last year. The anthologies, that is a new collection for us. We started getting a lot of anthologies as gifts. And the reason you have this sign here is because I did not want to bring any fiction into this room. So the short story collections are still in the other room, but they're under the words short stories on the title of the books. So these really are what you would consider your traditional anthologies of essays, plays, poetry, the real nonfiction ones. So that's why they belong here. We have a beautiful art collection. A lot of these have been donated over the last year and a half by membership, and we're really pleased with them. It's books are lovely. They're extremely heavy, which is why we were very happy to bring them down to this level. They were originally very high, and nobody could deal with them. So we're very happy that they're not only attractive, but they are now accessible. We have an essay section. This is actually new. Before we had something that was called commentaries, and it was somewhat of a catch-all category. And what we did was we really expanded the category so we could take a lot out of commentary and now just create a general essay. And some of these are books that maybe in a public library would be more subject-oriented, but for the purpose of this small library, they really do fall under the category of essays. So that's what we have here. We have a very nice health collection here. They are current, and we do have some standards, but they generally are very, very current. We really try to check constantly the health collection to make sure that we have new books here. We have a lovely history section. Again, it is really like double in size because of donations from the membership as well as the public library. We have a humor section here and a core Iowa collection. Now, this is really interesting. Some of these books over the years, in terms of the types of books they are, have changed dramatically because the population itself has changed. I and Carol Spaziani actually opened the original public library in 1981, and it was a much different population. It was an older population, so the types of books that we gave were probably what we would consider a more gentle population.
Let me interrupt you a minute. You said you opened the public library or this library?
This library.
This library.
This library. This library opened in 1981. A much smaller collection and a much gentler collection. Mostly large print, some more gentler fiction. But since the population itself has changed over the years, now being over 50 plus,
Yeah.
you know, the expectations of our collection have changed dramatically. And you're going to see it especially, not only in fiction, but you're going to really see it in some of the humor books. They're a little bit darker than the humor books that started this collection. So, but we still have what's called a really lovely historic core collection for Iowa for people, especially if they're doing programs and so on. Our leisure collection has changed dramatically too. It used to when I first came here, it was pretty much a catch-all collection for anything where they didn't know where to put it. So now it's pretty much like crafts and travel, you know, photography, computing, and so on. So it's a small collection, but it, you know, it's much more focused. And plays and poetry. Originally, we did not really have a plays section. So what we did was we drew them all together with the poetry. And we have created a collection, and again, over the last year, we have received a lot of beautiful poetry books. Politics and government, this is a brand new one. We also have at one point, because they are keyed together, we have a new social sciences collection as well. And traditionally, political science is a social science, but we were also receiving books that really were not politics as a social science. They were sort of bridging the gap between what would have been the history of politics. So we created sort of a politics and government section. We sort of separated it out. We have a reference collection here, a very nice one. Originally, reference was sort of thrown in the other room. We brought it together here. Religion and philosophy has been a very popular section. We've gotten some lovely books over the last year. Science and natural history, it's a brand new collection. The members of the Science Book Club said, can we have a science and natural history section? I went, yeah. You start bringing books and we'll create it. So it's a small, but it's a very nice collection. Some of them I culled out of other collections when we created this, and we've had some lovely gifts. So we've got that, again, our social sciences collection. Sports and games, nice little collection. One collection that has really just grown just tremendously is the DVD collection. When I first came here, we had only videos, no DVDs. Now I'm running out of room for DVDs. They're so big. Now I said that I never use the bottom shelves. This is the one time I use them just for the large copy television ones because this chair is always here, so it makes it somewhat accessible. But it's just a tremendous collection, keeps growing. So we're gonna have to rethink, you know, perhaps have to rethink shifting some collections in order to make room for the new DVDs. We do have some compact disc music and some compact disc books on cassette. So we've had them over here. People have been asking us for more books on CD. So I'm very happy that we've been receiving some as gifts because, as I say, the demand is there and this collection is growing. Now, I do want to point out there is a difference here from the fiction and the biographies. You'll notice you do not see the author's names on any of these. That's because this collection right here now is categorized by title. We found it was a lot easier to shelve it by title because we are dealing with nonfiction numbers, which make it so complex. So the fiction section is by the author, biography is by the person's name, the subject. This all is by title. So it makes it a little bit easier to use this library.
So can I ask you a question about weeding? I am a gardener, and I love to weed. I'll just rip everything out and throw it in a bushel basket. But it must be such a painful experience to have to weed. You just have so much space. Right?
There's so much space.
So what's the process?
The process has changed over the years because of the amount of books that we've been receiving. It used to be that, and let me show you how we do this. People wonder, how do you even know? That you will notice every book When it is received, there is a date, so we know exactly that this book was received on February 21st, 2013.
Okay.
As these books are checked out and returned, we stamp them. So that is how we know how books are being used in this particular library. What used to be the criteria for reading used to be if a book was 2 years or older and had not been used, it got removed from the library. But because this collection keeps growing at a very fast pace, I have since January 11th of 2012, I have probably completely weeded this library 4 times. You know, because of the amount of gifts that are coming in from the membership and from the public library. So the criteria has changed somewhat. It now generally is year to year. And I pretty much check about every 2 months. And sometimes, if I have a collection by one author that is very large, it could possibly be shifted to a rack collection. It might be every 3 to 6 months. So it just depends how quickly these shelves fill now. And yes, it is a long drawn-out process. You have to pull every single book off
And
the
are
shelf.
there some things that you generally don't read?
Yes, I try not to, unless if they're falling apart. Try not to read classics.
Classics.
You know, so you're talking your Dickens, your Austen,
Mhm.
you know, you're talking about your more modern ones, you know, like Fitzgerald, Faulkner, Hemingway, and so on. And then I try not to read any IO authors. Unless they're falling apart. You know, are really poor shape, and we know we need new copies. So sometimes, you know, things, you know, surprisingly, we do have to pull just because the condition is so poor. And you feel badly, and you just have to wait till a new copy comes.
And then you talked a little bit about recycling. And when I have to go to my closet and take out all the clothes that I really never wear, it's really hard to do, but I hand them on to a secondhand store or whatever, and I feel like, well, at least somebody else is going to enjoy them.
Absolutely.
Is this what goes
Absolutely,
on here?
absolutely. Unless an item is just completely fallen apart, we recycle everything. Again, the puzzles and games, generally, if they're in very good shape, they will go to Autumn Park. Books that did not belong to the Iowa City Public Library generally will go to the content closet. Books that were from the collection from the public library and very pristine copies and very good books. It might be that we received a duplicate copy of a hard copy, or we might just have books that are just in such beautiful condition. We know that they will sell at the book sales. They will go back to the public library for the bookstore. So yeah, we try to recycle everything.
All find a home
somewhere. Try to find a home.
So what's the procedure when somebody wants to donate books to this library?
Okay, well there's 2 levels to it. If somebody has a very large collection they want to donate, they actually need to work with the front desk because they will look at that collection to make sure that it is appropriate. You know, there's just so much space here in terms of bringing in huge amounts of books. But if you have a few books, you know, a bag of books and so on, this is where you bring them. You just bring them to these boxes here. You just throw them in here. This is also where you throw returns as well. But you just put in the donations, and then I or one of the assistants who works with me will go through these and determine if they are appropriate for our library.
And how do they check out books?
How do they check out? This is the honor system. This is really one of the best deals in town. They come to the library. They take the books they want and they bring them back when they're done.
That's it.
That's it. They don't have to run through us or anything. They just take as many as they want, and then when they return them, they just again throw them in here. I do want to say for individuals who do deduct on their taxes, if they talk to Emily Light in terms of getting a receipt for their books, they will be able to do that. So that is also very, very useful for those who are going to donate a lot of materials to our library.
And is there any eligibility, like who can take books?
You know, something in theory, it's 50 plus. You know, I can't stop anybody if somebody comes in, you know, a relative who's 10, 15 years old happens to see a book that he or she likes. If that's fine, as long as it's brought back. But in theory, this is a library for the members, and it's 50 plus. But anybody is allowed to come up here and relax and, you know, sit and use this library. This is probably one of the more comfortable areas of the library. It's just a beautiful open air.
Yeah.
You know, and the lovely thing is when the bands are playing, you're right over there, so you can hear them. You know, the activity that's on the mezzanine is just a really lovely. It's just a lovely area to work and to just relax.
Very nice open space.
It is, and I have to say, I want to focus on these. These are the most comfortable chairs I have ever been in. So yes, let's focus on the chairs. Let's focus on the chairs. These are amazing. These chairs are at a premium on some days because they are so comfortable. Wonderful reading chairs.
So, how heavily is this library used?
You know, it's funny, it's very quiet now, but this library is very heavily used, and I can tell by its returns and by the amount of gifts that we receive, and the amount of feedback that we get from the membership. It's a wonderful, what I call it's a sampling collection. You're not going to have every author here. You're not going to have every title for that author, but we are very lucky that for those who are Iowa City residents, we have the superb library right down the street. For those who might be Coralville residents, they have a beautiful library of their own. So this is a wonderful way, for individuals to grab extra books and or to introduce themselves to authors that they may not otherwise, know. And so that's why we refer to this as a sampling library.
And what about volunteers? What do they do?
Volunteers do different things here. I mean, I essentially was asked when I retired. I was essentially asked to come here to manage this library.
Yeah.
But we have wonderful volunteers. Right now, I have 2 volunteers on Monday mornings. I'm a volunteer. Her name is Vicki Van Doren. She has also volunteered other capacities at the center. She's a longtime member, and she comes in on the morning. And if there's any books to receive, she'll do those. Check them in. Any new books, she'll catalog. But she'll also stay here for a while to talk to individuals if they have any questions or so on. On Thursday afternoons, I have a volunteer, Jeannie Morris, and we generally work together. We do a lot of cataloging together, and then if there's a lot of books that have to go back to the public library, we will take them over that afternoon. She is also the one, because she volunteers twice a week at the Crisis Center, she's the one who will take all the books to the private closet. So she has been just a fantastic resource. For a long time, it was really difficult for us to get the books places. Occasionally Doug could do it, sometimes Emily could do it, but it really was a struggle to get these books to the chronic closet. So it's wonderful to have somebody as part of her regular volunteer job to take the books. And it's my understanding that perhaps in the next month I will have two more volunteers. Yeah. So this will be nice. One of the things that they do besides checking in and the cataloging and answering questions is there's a constant maintenance here. Like any library, it gets messed up a lot, so it has to be straightened. Shelves have to be, faced out. Things have to be read to make sure they're in order. So they do that as well.
Your organization is done. You've really
several times over. Several times over. It took almost a year.
Yeah.
Yes, to get it the way that as I said, there were 2 excellent volunteers when I first came here, but they're both gone. And so so I brought in my expertise when I came here. As a former library employee and somebody who had for years done outreach and so on and new collections. So tried to organize it the way that I thought it might make sense and might best benefit the membership at large. Along with the public library, this is one of the jewels of the city of Iowa City. This is an extraordinary place, and I knew that I wanted to work in this library. And everybody teases me like bus person's holiday in this case. But I really wanted to get involved with the center.
Thank you.
Well, thank you,
Kathy,
Kate. It's
very
been a pleasure.
much.
It's been a pleasure.
When this interview is over, I'm rushing to the stacks.
There you go. There you go. It's nice and clean. I cleaned it up before this interview.
There you go.
I guess I do come in every day, almost.